Okay, so it is time for another keto video. It has been a little while, and one of the things we're going to talk about today is regarding common mistakes with keto that I keep finding. This has now been a few years that I've been involved with this and working with patients. I get most of my mistakes are not from active patients that are doing this very often. I do, of course, do consults with people all the time, and I do have patients that maybe watch these videos or have listened to me and then try it themselves. But these are just some of the common overriding things that I find very often. So let's get started. So these are the topics we're going to cover in this video. That keto is not really your goal. If you don't feel good suddenly, this is a common thing. Again, I don't find this very much in my practice with active people, but I do find this for people who have done it on their own. What happens when you plateau? That's mostly for people doing keto with weight loss and such like that, or also for brain fatigue, brain function, TBI, concussions and such. Breathalyzer reset, and then another part with alcohol. I did alcohol, I covered in a video before of can you cheat, but I have a little bit of an advice and update for that for people. So first thing we got about keto. Keto is not your real goal. Your real goal is to get into an adaptive ketosis or nutritional adaptive keto phase. Other way of looking at it would be called fat adaptation. The whole goal is to do keto for long enough to where your metabolism switches to actually expecting fat for its energy. That's when you're going to lose weight. That's when all the magic's going to happen in your brain. That's when it gets really easy, and that's when you can cheat. If you don't get to an adaptive phase, you're going to constantly be going in and out of keto. And let me tell you, it sucks. You don't feel good. I've played around with it many times. I got to where I was doing keto for a good 10 months and I cheated over the holidays, no problem. So you gradually, it's human nature. We cheat a little more, went on vacation, ate whatever I wanted. When you do go out of keto, you're going to feel terrible. I've gained up to 8 to 10 pounds. That's just from bloat. Essentially, you eat all those carbs you're not used to. Your bad bacteria in your gut is going to have a party and a heyday, and you'll feel okay for a day or two, and then everything's bad. That's in one of my other videos about don't do this. But again, that's the key that people don't seem to get is, again, you don't cheat at first. You need to get yourself into an adaptive phase, and then you can do those kind of things and just live a normal life, really. It's not that much different when you're in adaptive ketosis, at least for me, as it is, living a normal diet, not in keto. It's just a very subtle changes here and there. But again, when you go in and out, it sucks. You feel terrible, and it's not fun, so you don't want to do that. So what happens if you've been doing keto for a while, you've lost some weight, you've done it for hormonal balancing, you've done it for your brain, and suddenly out of the blue, 6 weeks later, 2 months later, you just don't feel good. I get this a lot more. I've heard a lot more with women when I've been on the forums and I did the advanced ketogenic training courses. It was interesting. It was a lot of times women practitioners who would poo-poo it and say, because it's not healthy for women to do. The reality is it's not necessarily true. You don't feel good because something's imbalanced. You're missing something. And so that's really the key, is to figure out how to figure what's wrong. But it's not that keto suddenly was so good for you and now it's bad. It is something's imbalance, and there's always a reason for that. Whenever a patient comes in with a problem that comes out of nowhere or something regresses, I always tell them there's got to be a trigger. There has to be a trigger. So when in doubt, I've said this many times, I say this about any problem, you should be tracking. If you get in a phase of wearing a Whoop arm thing or wearing some kind of tracking device, that's a helpful thing for tracking. I still think it's best to make your own personal spreadsheet like this. Again, I give this away for free to people, and you can customize it however you want. But again, you just want to be tracking your life. You want to be tracking what you're doing or what your goal is, because then it makes it very easy to see what you might be doing right or wrong. So again, when in doubt, track it, and then add more items. You might, just as an example, in this one, this is the old one that I used to show. Let's say out of the blue your bowels are off and you're constipated. Well, you might want to make that a new column, and every day you start to say, how are my bowels? Was I loose today? Was I constipated? Was I normal? And as you start to add that into your tracking, you start to then learn something new. So again, tracking is without a doubt one of the most important things, and you can track whatever you need. You also might delete certain things and realize, you know what? I don't need to track my blood sugar anymore because it's been great for a year and I feel good, so that may be something that's not worth tracking anymore. So if you don't feel good, what are some of your options? when's the last time you ran some blood or done some hormonal testing? Especially for women, that would be an important one, is, run that. See what your steroid hormones, your progesterone, your estrogen and stuff are, or just basic blood tests. What's your blood sugar? Are you passing ketones in your UA? A lot of hormonal testing is not that expensive, and I think it's something that's very beneficial for anyone to do, when there's a problem, but then sometimes when you're feeling great, just to do it as well. It's not something you have to do all the time. Again, one thing that makes our clinic unique is I don't really charge extra for blood tests. You pretty much pay the wholesale price for a test. There's a few caveats to that, but again, that's something for that. Second, ask for help. You can't know it all. I don't know everything. I've gotten into genomics, and one of the great things about genomics is it's very humbling because it's too much data. You literally can't do everything yourself. I can't be an MD, a DC, a functional medicine expert, a dietitian, a lifestyle coach. You can't do everything. You can't know everything. So if things aren't working right, ask for help. Get some testing. Talk to somebody who knows what they're doing. Another little part that I have not mentioned before is maybe it is time for a break. I have come out of keto a few times since I started this a few years ago, just because I kind of felt it was time to. I just kind of felt I wanted to, and I did. I had reached my goals. I felt good, and I just didn't want to deal with it. One was before travel one time. I said, I don't care about it. Ironically, another trip, I stayed in keto the whole time, even though I ate whatever I wanted. But again, it may be time for a break. And then the other one, I've mentioned this before, the biggest mistake people have is their minerals getting balanced. They're not getting enough minerals. This is very important during the summertime when you're sweating a lot more. You're just losing electrolytes. This is a product I mentioned, the Keto Minerals BHB. I really like. It still has a 15% off for people, so that's just a link for one product. But never underestimate electrolytes, and even just salt. If in doubt, put some salt in some water, drink it, and see how you feel in a very short period of time. If you feel a lot more balanced, or let's say you're having back pain or you're feeling achy, that's a big piece of this. But again, if you're tracking your diet, you can also look at what I've been eating regularly. Okay, I plateaued. What do I do? This is, again, the same kind of thing. You can do blood hormonal testings, ask for help, maybe time for a break. Or in most cases, when people if this is a weight loss kind of thing, the reason is when you lose weight, you store a lot of toxins in your fat. And when you lose that fat, you actually toxify your body. And a lot of those toxins are blood sugar modulators and hormonal modulators. So you actually become your own worst enemy chemically. So if you've plateaued, the goal is don't give up and don't go back up. It's to really focus on your detox phases. Focus on getting rid of those extra toxins, those hormonal things, and balancing out. It is much healthier to lose and plateau, lose and plateau, lose and plateau. That's probably the healthiest way. Not everyone's able to just go down magically to their entire goal. So plateaued isn't necessarily bad, but again, there's a reason, and you just have to look at why. Regarding the breathalyzers, I've talked about this before. One I don't believe I mentioned, though, was about how these work. Reset your meter. And so what that is when you have a meter, I've got one somewhere right here. This is the meter I use. Again, there's tons of them out there. This is the middle one in there. It will actually hold some ketones in there. And so the meter's not necessarily accurate. So what you do is you just cycle it. Is just actually run it over, do it like 3 cycles in a row with nothing. Don't breathe into it, don't anything with the air, and then you might find that it works fine. So sometimes it just needs to be reset. Another one would be obviously check your batteries. When the batteries do get low, they don't always work as well. And then again, I did mention this, they can go bad. I haven't found that there's one great company out there. They're about the same price. So since they can last for a good year, 2 years or more, I would say just buy one of the run-of-the-mill kind of ones. Again, I use that middle one, is the one I've been most happy with. But just buy it, and if it's 2 years and you've been using it for literally almost every day, you got your money out of it, and there's nothing wrong with buying another one. And then final one's alcohol part 2. So I did my video on alcohol and how it is possible to cheat. However, it's kind of like with keto. Keto's not right for everybody. Keto's not right for a hypoglycemic. Some people, alcohol is not good for them. Some people are hypersensitive to alcohol, and it's going to throw them off way worse. Like we talked about, it doesn't throw you into ketosis if you're doing a hard liquor type thing. However, it does put you into purgatory, and you're not going to get your goals. Not only are you not going to get your goals, it can confuse your system, and that can take a lot longer, and that can be a much harder recovery from. So the reality, if you're going to do this, if you're doing this for health for sure, I mean, we don't need alcohol in our lives, is maybe alcohol is not right for you, or maybe while you're doing it, you want to just really just say, you know what, I want to cut out the alcohol. Sometimes it's easier to go cold turkey than it is to actually just say, oh, I'm going to cut it down. And then the right something I got into when I quit drinking for a period of time was I was looking into non-alcoholic type options, and there are a ton of them out there. Some of them are complete ripoffs. Crisp and Crude is one I found that's actually very reasonable. It's very low calorie. It's very low sugar. And it actually has that, it can replace a feeling of having a drink or something. There's beers, there's all kinds, you can pretty much mimic anything in a no alcohol, low carb version. Again, that's the key too. You don't want to just do I had patients who quit drinking and they were drinking instead cranberry and ginger ales, which is just phenomenally high sugar. I mean, almost worse for you than what they were drinking before. So that would be the one with alcohol, is, it's not necessarily right for everybody. And then, of course, some people keep saying, oh, I didn't know you did a new video. I used to always roll my eyes when people said, oh, subscribe and like and such. But if you do subscribe, well, then when I put out these videos, it's going to notify you there's a new video up. So that is a reason for that. And, of course, do share with your friends. I've had many patients will come in and say, oh, I think my neighbor would really be helped by your video. Well, they could just as easily cut and paste that in their browser and email it to their friend than that. So there's a quick video. Again, any comments, keep them coming. And I wish you all well, and take care.